Welcome, TAG families. We're so excited you could join us tonight. And for those of you who are watching on our live stream, feel free to ask questions in the chat. Mrs. Maddie Moore will be answering those as quickly as she can. We're going to start off with some introductions. Also, first, I want to thank those of you who chose to sit in like the splash zone. That's really impressive and brave. And for the rest of y'all, welcome. Okay, first up, we have Mrs. Amy Russell, who's probably still out front scanning tickets. She's we call her our tiny tag guru because she teaches only tiny tag, and she's at several campuses: Bransom, Klingscale, Mound, Nola Dunn, Hike, and Fraser. Next up, we have Jody Lynn McGee out on the front here. She teaches at Stribling, and she does K through 5 there, and she also teaches K through 2 tiny tag at Norwood. Next, we have Maddie Moore. She's she does K through 5 at both Brock and Taylor Elementaries. Next, we have Stephanie White. She teaches 3rd through 5th grades at Nola Dunn. I'm Elena Pollard. I teach 3rd through 5th at Hike and Mound Elementaries. Ann McGovern, down here on front. She's at Fraser and Klingscale. And lastly, we have Rachel Pappas. Bransom and Norwood. Oh, listen to that. Bransom and Norwood. Wow. Okay, coming up next is Miss Stephanie White. She's going to share some common characteristics of gifted learners.
Hello, my name is Stephanie White, and like she said, I'm the tag teacher for grades 3 through 5 at the Academy in Nola Dunn. Okay, so characteristics of gifted children. Obviously, we know some of our gifted children are highly curious. We want you to take the time to allow them to be curious and let them seek out their how and why. They're super inquisitive, and hopefully it's not too bothersome when they are inquisitive. We want to capitalize on that, so it's such an awesome quality. Next, definitely characteristics of some tag kids are quirky or have a mature sense of humor. They are wildly silly. They have great ideas. They like to play around, and they understand humor in a lot of ways that most children their age do not understand. So, next, our tag children, some characteristics. One of the characteristics is their emotional depth. They often have surprising emotional depth. That means that they can empathize or sympathize at a better than some of their peers. You may also find that they are highly sensitive themselves. So we need to be aware of their complex emotions. Our tag kiddos are inventive, and they're definitely designers. You'll catch them creating, inventing. They love to initiate projects, super inquisitive, and this makes for great inventors, for sure. And last but not least, tag kiddos can be highly self-critical. Sometimes we need to pay attention to their self-worth and understand the difference between a perfectionist and someone who is, so as parents we need to try to capitalize on their achievements rather than focusing on the things that they're doing incorrectly. So we want to celebrate when they do something well instead of focusing on what they didn't do well. So if we do that, sometimes it leads to perfectionism, and that's not a trait that we want to celebrate too much with the tag kiddos. So celebrating their achievements and their creativity. And that is it for our gifted kids. Now, Jody Lemegee is going to come up and talk about the gifted kids' needs.
Okay, so gifted kids have a lot of the same needs that all children have, but in addition to that, they have a need for doing learning that's a little bit different. They need to be challenged to solve problems, that flexible thinking in different ways, and that is one of the main components of our program, to go not just learning facts. Anybody, you can Google facts, but how to think critically, flexibly, and be a problem solver. And like Stephanie mentioned, we have freedom to fail on the slide, celebrating achievements, but also celebrating their effort. Think about the growth mindset. One way, I'm holding this the wrong direction. There we go. One way that we foster that flexible thinking and that problem solving and that need to go deeper is through these greater depth and complexity icons. These icons are up in our classrooms, and we tell the kids to think of them as thinking emojis. The first 8 help the children to go deeper in their thinking, and the last 3 help them to go to be more complex with their thinking. I'm going to go through them very, very quickly because what they stand for isn't as important as the fact that we do take them a little, we take the time to go deeper in what they're learning, especially with our projects and our themes each year. So the first one is the LIPS, which is just language of the discipline. It's more than vocabulary. It's like the type of language you would use in certain contexts. The next one, the flower, is details, looking at the details of what they're studying. The dots that are connected, that's patterns. Gifted kids love to look for patterns and find unique patterns and different patterns. Sometimes they surprise us with patterns we didn't think of. The next one is rules. It looks like a flow chart. It's not just rules like right and wrong, but there are rules to nature, the water cycle, weather, that kind of thing. Rules in society, what's expected in society, and they love to go deep and think about that. The bar graph or the line graph would be trends over time. The question marks, unanswered questions. They ask questions. I'm sure they do it at home too. They ask questions all the time. We want them to be constantly questioning. With the 3rd through 5th grade kids, we do a project every year, and that is one area we work on, is having them develop open-ended questions that may or may not have a final answer. The next one, the black and white, that's ethics. Not just right and wrong, but pros and cons, and analyzing, 2 sides of an issue. The green one looks like a house or, columns with a roof. That's the big idea, big overarching idea that might come out in a lesson or with our project. Now, the last 3 are the complexity. The one that you can see that's the arrows in a circle, think of a clock, change over time. A lot of times kids, they love to look at I had a student today that decided he wanted to look up, when did chess start? Like, how far back in history, was chess invented? And he was just curious, just wondering about that. Looking at change over time with their projects or the topics they're studying. The glasses, multiple perspectives. Being able not just to see other people's perspectives, but to think about different perspectives within a discipline. And then the last one is across disciplines. That can be across subject matters, how are science and social studies connected, or different connections that they notice in the world. And they will see connections a lot quicker than their peers. Okay, after all of that, so we've gotten them thinking deeply in a complex way. There's 2 types of thinking we encourage. They start doing this in Tiny Tag, K through 2, and we really refine it in 3 through 5. Divergent and convergent thinking, and you can see on the slide, pretty easy graphic to describe what that's like. Convergent thinking is the logical, one right answer, Divergent thinking is where we get into creativity, and those depth and complexity icons help us with getting the kids thinking outside of the box. So, Miss White mentioned coping with perfectionism. That is can be a huge deal for some GT kids. We don't want them to freeze or to stop or to put a lid on what they're doing because they're afraid of failure or of being wrong or it not being perfect. So if you notice on the graph, we go, we want to strive for excellence. Perfectionism sometimes, we're not able to achieve perfectionism in everything, but we want to aim for excellence. And that's an important trait to develop in your kids, especially in the elementary years before they move up into middle school and high school, so that they're willing to try and they maintain a growth mindset and don't have a fear of not achieving perfectionism or disappointing the adults around them because they think we expect perfectionism when we don't. We expect excellence in their best, but not perfectionism. So one downside of perfectionism is it can actually surprisingly result in underachievement. So underachievement can happen either through lack of motivation or effort, which happens sometimes, but it also could happen due to perfectionism. So everybody needs to know kind of what perspective the child is taking. If we as teachers or you as parents notice that they might not be achieving where they should, it's a good time to have a conversation and get to the root cause of it. If it's perfectionism, there's reassurance about growth mindset. And if it's motivation, that's a different conversation. Okay, ways to reverse if we do notice underachievement. Of course, acknowledge achievements, but also attempts and effort. Think about growth mindset. We're always growing. A big thing is you may not have reached it yet if they have a goal that they're trying to reach. And be realistic with expectations. Those especially perfectionist students will set goals for themselves that it's kind of like a wish list, and I know we do it as adults. We have, our goal we think we're going to reach, or that to-do list we're going to accomplish in a day. We have to be realistic with what can actually happen in a day. And we want their goals to be for excellence, but watch for perfectionism. And then, of course, their interests and passions. This is a great year for that. This is our exploration year, and you'll be hearing about our project later. This is a great year for kids to explore what they're passionate about. And on the specific feedback and praise, depending on the child and the situation, it's really important to sometimes know when you need to praise them for achievement. Maybe they set a goal and reached it, or praise them for the effort and the learning they're putting into it so that they can attach their efforts at school into, I've mentioned growth mindset many times, into effort and growth rather than just achievement. So now Ms. Pappas is going to come up and share a little bit more about some specifics of our program.
Hello. So up on the screen, we've included a list of books that can be useful to you as parents or to your students to kind of help combat some of those things we talked about, like perfectionism. The link up there, the QR code, it's actually an Amazon list, so if you click add to cart, it'll kind of get wonky. But it's a good list of books that you can utilize at home with your kids. I know we use some of these in our classroom, but yeah, I can give you all a second to kind of take a picture or scan the QR code if you want. Okay, so this is our tier program. So if you're in the education world at all, you might be familiar with the terms Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. Tier 1 tends to refer to the core curriculum, the whole class setting. Tier 2 is more of a small group pullout with the in-class support with the teacher. And Tier 3 is when the students tend to leave the classroom for a more different kind of program. So TAG falls under the Tier 3 program. That is our TAG pullout. So that is when we are pulling these kids to give them extension and to help them grow. if you're familiar with our TDP program, that's our Tier 2 program. So that is where they're receiving services, but in class, and they are getting support from the teachers. So we're still servicing kids in both tiers, but Tiny Tag and Tag Pullout are our Tier 3 programs. Okay? So here we have our state goal for GT students. So the state creates a goal that we implement in our district. It's very long, so I'm not going to read it all to you, but you can look at some of the key parts. One big thing we push is the self-directed learning, thinking, research, and communication piece. So this is our research project. When our kids say, hey, why do we have to do all this research? Not only does it have great benefits for, growing the mind, but also it is part of the state plan. So the self-directed learning, thinking, and research, that's when they're researching their topic, they're creating slides, they're creating a showcase project, and communication is when they're presenting it at our annual showcase, which we will get into more. Okay? Oh, I think we skipped one. Yep. Oh, okay. Up next, we have our Tiny Tag curriculum with Miss Maddie Moore.
Sorry, I have to run from behind the booth. I'm coming. Okay, so our Tiny Tag curriculum follows the primary education thinking skills, which is our PETS curriculum. So if your student comes home from Tiny Tag and they talk about, oh, well, I learned about this dog today. That's Dudley the detective, and he talks about detective thinking, which is the deductive logic, where you take all of these clues like a detective and you find the one right answer. And then we have Sybil the scientist, which is our kangaroo, and different pets that talk about different thinking skills. So if they come home talking about pets, I promise we did learn things. We also, in our second semester, we're building those skills in the first semester, talking about all those different pets and their different ways of thinking. And then in the second semester, we do like this mini research project that's in class. And we follow the same steps, the guided research process that our big kids do in 3rd through 5th grade. So we kind of assist them in the K through 2, do a mini research, and then by the time they get to our 3rd through 5th grade program, they're able to do that independent research by themselves. So those are the skills that we work on in our Tiny Tag program. And next, Anne will be talking about our Big Tag program.
Well, thanks. All right, for our 3rd through 5th Tag Pullout curriculum, this is in addition to what they learn in the regular classroom. We have what we call universal themes, the big idea concepts that connect across disciplines, woven throughout each of the content areas. And they increase in depth and complexity by looking for relationships across the curriculum. So this year, our theme is Explore. We have these big ideas about Explore, and they're most likely posted in every classroom. You'll notice that when we talk about these big themes, these big ideas, that everything relates back to them. Exploration requires recognizing purpose and responding to it. Exploration requires taking risks. Exploration confronts the unknown. And exploration may result in new findings or the confirmation of old findings. So this year, we explore things like math in nature. We have various forms of exploration, like Old World Explorers, our simulation that we just started. We'll explore space and the ocean. And for the most part, we'll be doing our independent research project, which is our Big Wonder project. So with thinking about our independent research, we use something called the guided inquiry design process. It is a process that takes us through step by step on how students need to research things. We'll embark on individual wonder projects as they think and explore different topics that they find personal interest in. And we're going to see some really, really interesting things that they come up with. Next, we have Elena.
Okay, coming up next are all the important dates when hopefully when you walked in, you grabbed this little sheet of paper. If you didn't, they'll still be out there as you exit. So you don't have to remember them or even take screenshots. Okay, so like she just talked about, the students will be doing their independent research this year. It's called the Wonder Project. And then they will have an opportunity to share that with you and other family and friends at our annual showcase nights. We have 2 nights. You can see that the schools are separated out. They are not set up for feeder school because of numbers and the teachers we have on which campuses. So if you're wondering, that's why. And you'll also notice this year we have 2 separate groups each night. That's so we have less students in the building at one time, which allows for them to have more space. And we're doing it more like an expo this year. So the students will have an opportunity to share their independent research with a small audience at their little booth or table, as opposed to last year if you got to experience that one. We're pleased to offer up 2 Saturday camps again this school year. The first one is next month, and then the next one will be in February. You'll notice that each grade level has a different time. It is held at Fraser Elementary. There are 4 areas this year. We have art, and this year they will do pop art in October and landscapes in February. And then we have another class of design thinking and engineering. We have pickleball basics in the fall and Rubik's Cubes in the spring. And then we're adding a new one this year, kitchen chemistry. We're going to do some creative and testing in the kitchen, like fluffy pancake chemistry and sparkling crystal creations. You'll get more information about that as we get closer to those dates. Your tag teacher will send you an email with a sign up for it. It's very important that you pay close attention. We usually send out like a prep email of it's coming, and then we send the official sign up link later. So you want to stay on top of that because the class sizes are limited. We have a field trip planned for the spring. We're going to the Rory Myers Children's Garden at the Dallas Arboretum. And you'll see the dates up there as well for those. All right, coming up next, Rachel Pappas, again, is going to share about parent resources.
All right. So we have a new thing that's happening this year. If you have had GT Kids in the program before, this will be new to you. So we are trying to set up a GT Parent Association. We really want to find a way to get parents more involved and kind of help build that community of support and just, make things great for our GT students. So we are asking that you scan this QR code and you give us kind of your insight on if you would want to be in the GT Association, if you would not. We just are trying to kind of, gauge the interest level and get the ball rolling on that. So there is a QR code up there if you could scan it. And then there's also a bit.ly link for the same thing if your QR code's not scanning. So I'll give you a second to scan that. If for some reason it's not working, your campus GT specialist will send this link out as well as the slides, so you will be able to access it. But it's a very quick survey. It's just helping guide us as we create a parent association and kind of help us shape the vision for that. So I'll give you all a second if you need to scan it. All right, and up here we also have a list of parent resources. These are some things outside of Burleson ISD that are really great for kind of support at home, connecting with other GT parents, resources for your kids. There's a whole bunch of different things on there. So the first one I do want to point out, there's a webinar coming up on September 23rd talking about raising gifted siblings. So if you are someone who is fortunate enough to be in a household with many gifted children, this can kind of talk about navigating that. We have the NAGC, which is the National Association for Gifted Children, you can get involved with. There's also Mensa for Kids, which has some great resources. UConn has the Renzulli Center, which you can also access. TAGT, it's the Texas Association for the Gifted and Talented. They have parent support groups and just parent resources that they love to share. And then also just another website, hoagiesgifted.org, is another great one to utilize. So I do encourage you to explore these, kind of see what resources they have to offer, because, you know, there's a lot of great things out there, and we want to share them. If you have any other specific questions, like, hey, I need resources on this or that, you can absolutely reach out to your campus GT specialist, and we'll get you specific stuff too. So these are just some general ones. Okay? And so we kind of wanted to end on a quote, wonder is the beginning of wisdom. So this year our big theme is exploration, and kind of tied in with that is that big idea of wonder. So we are really allowing the kids this year to explore what they wonder about. And you know, y'all know these kids, they wonder about the craziest things sometimes. And so I'm personally really excited about this year because you kind of get to see how far they go with those wonders, and you get to see how they deep dive, and they just become so full of wisdom about their topic that they could pretty much give a TED Talk on it, you know? So the last slide I'm gonna leave up, this is again, the GT specialist for each campus. And underneath each name, you'll notice that we have the username. So if you wanna email your GT specialist for any reason, you can type in their username and then do @bisdmail.net. Also, you can find us on the staff directories. Most of us probably already talk to you all the time anyway, so, but this is just if you need to shoot us an email for anything. And last but not least, the GT specialist will be in the foyer area after the presentation. So if you want to talk to your campus specialist for any reason, we're going to be over there hanging out. We do ask that, what time is it? 6 o'clock? So we'll probably be there, till 6:30? Is that what we said? Okay. So we'll be there till about 6:30, just because, you know, we reserve the building till 6:30. So after that, we do kind of need to be respectful of their time, of the people who are working here. But we will be in the foyer answering questions, signing autographs, taking pictures, you know, the usual. But thank y'all for coming out tonight. We really appreciate all of y'all, all of your support. And thanks for letting us share your kids and just pour into them. They really are the best part of the job, for real. Thank y'all.